Hello, welcome to Cami Designs. And in the last video for this sock pattern, we had just shown how to cast onto double pointed needles. Now I'm going to show you how to work this sock. Now this sock is a top, from the top down. So I'm working from the cuff to the toe. And I'm going to show each process. We're going to do the complete sock on video. So if you have any questions or comments, please post them below and I'll try to go over it, more in detail. And so let's get started. Now I started to knit this first row. And so I'm going to continue to knit this first row, and then from there we will do a rib. This is my yarn. I'm trying to get some yarn off here so then I have some yarn to work with. And I'm going to try to make each video not too long, so it's not such a chore to watch them so much. Okay, so I'm going to continue to knit. So my yarn is in the back. And it does take some getting used to working with so many needles, but it's not that hard once you get the hang of it. I actually, when I first started double pointed needles, I had a problem with my stitches falling off, and I couldn't figure out what they talked when a pattern would say needle 1, needle 2, and I'm like, how do I know which needle is what? And so it took me a little while, but now I don't mind it at all. I like it a lot in some patterns. And it can make it a lot easier once things get smaller working with double pointed needles. Now I'm just knitting all these stitches from this needle onto this needle. And then this needle will be empty, and that will be my new needle to work with. There we go. There we go. Just like that. And now what I do is I want to pull this needle so my stitches are then in the middle. So that is my first needle, has the first row on it. And I put this here along with this, so then I know that when I get done with this one, I will be starting a new row. But let's go on to the next one. Now this is where it can get a little tricky at first. I want to put the new needle, I'm going to be taking stitches off on the front. And then the needle I just worked in the back. Now let's take and slide these stitches down here so I can work with them. Here. And I want to go into this because I'm going to continue to knit this row. Just like this. And socks were one of the reasons I got into knitting. I just liked the way they looked. I wanted to be able to make my own socks. I've made plenty of crocheted slippers, but I always wanted to knit socks. So that's what got me into knitting, but it took me a little while before I felt comfortable enough to make a pair of socks. And the first sock pattern I did actually had cables in it. So, it wasn't the easiest socks, but I did it. So now I'm just going to keep knitting this one, and you can see my other needles are kind of just bouncing around there. They don't bother me so much, I'm kind of used to it, but if they bother you, you can hold them down with these other needles. Because really I'm only using this needle and then this one. So, just want to keep knitting till all my stitches are on this new needle. almost there. And if you're going by a pattern, and a lot of sock patterns will tell you to use fingerling yarn. And I like using Red Heart or worst weighted yarn. So all my socks are worst weighted because sometimes it's hard to find fingerling yarn and the cost of it can be a little expensive. So I just get Red Heart. You can get these at Walmart. They're not too expensive, and I can make two pairs of socks or a pair of socks out of one skein and have yarn left over. And they're a little thicker. But right here for this, I'm using the same size needle as I would use if I were using fingerling yarn. So I'm going to do this last stitch here, and then that is done. Okay, now go on to my third needle. So I want to put this one behind it here, like that. I'm going to push my stitches to the fairly close to the end without them falling off. And I want to knit this set. And then I just knit this, stitches off this needle, just like I did the other ones. And these flop around because I'm also at the beginning of my sock, and these are probably the hardest rows to start is when it first gets started like this because they want to move a lot. But the farther down you get in the sock, I see that they tend to hold their place a little better and are not moving about all the time. And there are different options for doing slippers, or socks I mean, sorry. You can use double pointed needles like I am here, or you can use a longer set of needles. I'm going to zoom in here a little bit. So you can use a longer needles like this. I got a long, I don't even know what this is called, a long loop on it, a long cord, and do a magic loop style. And I will show that in a future video to show you how a magic loop works. But a lot of people in most patterns will tell you to use double pointed needles. There are sock circular needles, so they're only 8 to 9 inches in the round. And I will do a second sock, this pair to this sock on circular needles so you can see the difference. But right now we're going to do this sock. So I want to finish knitting these. Like this here. And I have a light on, hoping you can see it, but it might be causing more shadows. So leave a comment if it's hard to see or you need me to change the angle a little bit, and I'll be more than happy to accommodate that. So once again, I flip this needle to the back, and now I'm on my last set of stitches. And if I lay this kind of flat here, all these are pointed to the center. And if you are working with only 3 needles, these would be all divided onto 3 needles. But I tend to work with 4 needles if I have 4 needles to spare. And the needles I'm using are Knitter's Pride Zing. I really like them. They knit really well. They are comfortable. So I really like them. I bought this set specifically for doing socks. I only have this size because they can be a little expensive if you buy the whole set. And so I just bought this size because I was knitting a pair of socks for my mom and I broke my wooden one. So somebody recommended this in one of my groups on Facebook, and so this is what I got, and I really like them. So just gonna keep knitting these till all the stitches are off this needle. Okay. If you notice, I'm kind of guiding my stitches with my finger here. That tends to work the best for me, especially when I'm working with small needles and tight stitches. Okay, so that is, let's flip this the right way. So that is the first row of this sock pattern. Now, I'll be starting the next row. So what I want to do, and this is now going to be needle 1. So I'm going to take my things off here. I'm going to put this on this set, or this needle here. And now this needle will become needle 1. So therefore, when I knit this now onto here, this is already going to be there. Okay, so now I'm going to start the cuff. So what I want to do is knit 1, purl 1. So I'm going to start with a knit. And then I'm going to bring my yarn to the front and purl. And then to the back to knit. Now to the front, so I can purl. To the back to knit. Now I do have a video on how to do a rib, but I'm kind of showing you here as well. Now, if I were to set this down and walk away, I might not know what part of the rib I'm on. And sometimes you can look and see the difference here. So sometimes you can see the difference. You can see the purls and see the knits. But usually when it's a first row, it's a little harder to see. So what I do is I let my yarn just lay how it wants to lay. So this wants to lay in the front. And it fed out of this. Let me get another needle here so I can point to it. So it just came out this way here. So it wants to lay in front. So I know with it laying in the front, that's a purl. So it needs to go to the back for a knit. And you'll see how it wants to then, it has to cross over the stitch. So if it was laying this way and it kind of bumps out like that, I know that I'm actually supposed to be knitting. Now I'll knit this next one so you can see how a knit one looks like. Now once again, if I had to set it down, you'll see that the yarn naturally wants to just stay to the back. And there's no yarn crossed over that stitch. So if I were to cross over, because I know the next one has to be a purl, you'll see here that it wants to bunch up or go to the back. And that is how I can tell what I'm supposed to be on. Just like that. And so you just want to continue this around, knit one, purl one, and you want to do this for about an inch. And so I will probably finish this inch of a rib off camera, so then you don't have to sit through multiple videos doing the same thing. So just continue around, knit one, purl one, until you have an inch of cuff, and then I will cover the next video on the leg part. And I will also try to get a diagram of the different parts of a sock, so you can tell the different parts of a sock. Now, once again, if you like this video, I really appreciate a thumbs up and a subscribe. And once I get to 1,000 to 2,000 subscribers, I'll be giving away free patterns off my Cami Design page. And so I think that's it. So subscribe, give me a thumbs up. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. I really love hearing from everybody. And have a great day. Thanks. Bye.